extension or my talk here is called UI5 tooling extension, sort out your extension in a flash. So for those of you who have seen the keynote, you saw Peter using the new yeoman generator called add, UI5 add, which is one I've built for exactly this purpose. So the reason why this is good, or what it helps you with, is when you're starting out on a project, or you want to add some extensions to an existing project, this generator will help you sort out and pick them and put the right config to them, etc. So overall, that really helps your developer workflow. So instead of you having to do this on several separate projects when you start them, all of this can be automated pretty much. So it's all these repetitive steps then that I personally get really annoyed with, that will be handled for me. Also, I don't have to go to the package documentation to figure out what the config variables are, what env variables they are, etc., etc. If that's typed correctly inside the extension, that's automatically pulled through into the yeoman generator. So that's really helpful for me as an experienced developer, but for a new developer, it really helps as well with setting the right sequence of how these different middleware should be executed. Also fixes the alignment on the YAML file, etc. The yeoman generator pulls in from the best of UI5. If you missed Marian's session yesterday, I really encourage you to see that best of UI5.org. Watch that on the replay. So this is the new central repository for all the cool things around UI5. So what we can see here is a lot of the different tasks and middlewares. There's several different tags. So there's custom controls in here, VS Code extensions, etc. So there's a lot of cool stuff on here. The generator, as I mentioned, pulls from this, and the plan is to be able to further on be able to support something like VS Code extensions when you add your UI5 libraries as a framework inside your YAML file, custom controls, or possibly even custom libraries. But enough talk. Let's go and look at some code and see the demo. I'll jump out of my send mode here. So I've got a little demo project, which is this one. In here, I've got an empty YAML file. So this is just a TypeScript application. So everything we just heard needs to be TypeScript. So I've got TypeScript here as well, of course. I've got a live reload, which is a part of the template. Similarly with the package.json file, it's pretty much stock standard. No UI5 dependencies except the live reload. And I don't have an env file here. So what I'll do is I'll start the UI5 add. So we can either do the UI5 add, or as you saw, it's also part of the easy UI5 generator. It is version 1 still, so you'll see it's not got the best name in here when you pick it, but it's at the very bottom here, just called add. So we'll sort out how to make that and improve that later on. I will start this with my own. So what happens now is it goes to the best of UI5 website and pulls in all the middlewares, task, and tooling, so the tooling modules that Peter mentioned in the talk before, and presents these in the yeoman generator. So we can select these multiple things. I'll just choose for the demo here the middleware. What you can see, and this is what I mean with the repetitive tasks, you can see how it's already got the one login and the simple proxy selected. So I don't have to select these because it remembers the preferences that I had from an earlier project. So if I press enter here, now it understands and needs to set the config variables for the different middlewares. So the one login here, so the one login, if you are not aware of it, I'll do a little shout out for my own middleware. This is supposed to handle anything in regards to authentication. So instead of you relying on the proxies, if you have a server with SAML Google or Azure AD, then this can handle the authentications towards those. So I'll set a path here to the ES5 Dev Center. I'll set the username, and then I just need to pop in the password. Bear with me. You can see here the input is hidden, which is pretty cool. I'll switch on the debug, and then lastly, it will ask me, so it recognizes some of these variables can be put into the env file. So it'll ask me to whether I want or not I want to put in that. So I'll say yes to that. Similarly with the simple proxy, so the mounting path, base URI. So all these are read from the type definition. I'll come back and show that in a little bit, but all of these are read and then presented. So these are the options that you'll also see in the documentation on the README file. And that should be the last one. Lastly, now it will come and ask me to overwrite the YAML file and the package.json. So if I see now on the package.json file here, it's automatically added the one login and simple proxy. It's pulled the latest versions from NPM, added into the UI5 dependencies, and also set the right sequence of execution inside the YAML file here. Lastly, the env file. So these are all the stuff that, for example, your password, etc., that you don't really want to share with your co-developers. That's something that will be automatically be added here, and that will be stored and used at runtime, depending on the extension. So now if I run my application, what you'll see here is because I've set the one login debug to true, it will come up with a pop-up. That pop-up is really because, as you can see, I'm SAP employee, so I have a certificate that I need to cancel. So now it pops in the username and password that I specified and fetches that login cookie and passes that on to the proxy. So if I start my application now, fingers crossed, I should get a list. So I don't have any flashy charts or anything like that in this, but you see the list, you see it's handling the authentication, all of this because of the yeoman generator, just popping these in and sorting it out for you. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, let's go into the code a little bit and look how this is possible. So firstly, it's all made possible by the extension and type definition inside the extension. So the extension can be in TypeScript or it can be in JavaScript as well. So it's really this JS doc type def that we're looking for in the generator. So for example, you can see here we have the first one, which is a path, the description, so the path to use, and then we have this prefix here telling the generator, okay, we have something that we need that we know is a env variable. So we have the option now to store this path in the env variable. If you go further down, we'll look at the password. The password here, you can see there's a pipe and a yo. So that tells the generator, okay, well, after this yo, we want to treat this variable called password as a password. So that's internal yeoman type, and that's why it was hidden. Similarly with the use certificate, that's a Boolean. So that's in yeoman types called a confirm. So that's the yes/no answer that you saw before. And you see how we now have another pipe and false. So this is now possible for it to set the default. Just checking here how I'm going on time. So if we jump into the simple proxy, for example, so you see how that's a JS file. In here, I just want to highlight, for example, we have the limit. So the limit here by default suggested is 1 megabyte. So we have the input type as input, which is just a normal text string, and then 1 megabyte for that. So that's what you saw before. If you noticed that when I was running through, that was the default parameter. So what happens, excuse me, it's late at night. All of this data here is pulled into best of UI5 and the data model behind that. I've got a local copy here. It is a bit old, but it shows the gist of it. So the the data model behind Best of UI5 presents all of this data, and this is what's used in the yeoman generator. So this section here about JS doc, where we have parameters. So it's a type input, the path to use, and the name. And also, if we do find the simple proxy, for example, we have the ignore, strict SSL, etc. So as you can see, this is a bit old because I don't have the defaults in here, but online, it's the newest version that you can get. The Best of UI5 website is rebuilt every night, I believe. So if you are a maintainer of a middleware and you add this type definition the following day, it should automatically be pulled through into the yeoman generator. So inside the actual generator and the code of that, I'm not sure why that bookmark doesn't work, but let's just find it for you. We have currently support for these different types. So a list is similar to what you saw when I was running the generator, but that's just a single select instead of a multi-select. So for example, when you run the easy UI5, actually, let me just run that. UI5. You'll see that this is what is a single select list. So I can only select one entry here. We have the checkbox, which is the one that I'm using in the yeoman generator, so you can do the multi-select. Input is self-explanatory. Confirm is the Boolean, so yes, no question, password, and a number. So what happens when you, as I mentioned, call the generator, it crawls or pulls all the data from the Best of UI5 data model, pulls that down, and runs through and fetches all the middlewares packages and tasks, middlewares tooling and tasks currently, and present them in the generator itself. So the idea is later on to be able to use more of these. So that's pretty much what I had in store. Lastly, I'll just show the GitHub repository. So this generator here lives inside the UI5 community. And I did have some issues with this earlier, so I might have to break my own promise here and just show this on the website. Just bear with me. So not the entire presentation will be done inside VS Code. But this is the generator. So as I mentioned, it does live inside the UI5 community. Any pull requests, any issues, etc., please just raise them. Anything that you think would be great to have in here, except so I've added custom controls, libraries, framework, and VS Code extensions. If you have anything else that you suggest to put in here, please raise an issue on that. And that's what I had to show for you all. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Nice. Thank you, Jakob. Do we have any questions from the audience to Jakob? Or does anyone just want to catch the mic? No, not yet.